Since I last covered this, the amount of player titles more than tripled, the Brawl Stars audience shifted like a chapter in Fortnite, and it's no longer called Mastery, so let's delve into the origin of every single player title. Shelly's first title is No Time to Explain, but as you may be aware, it's not located anywhere in her Brawler package in-game. But that's just because sitting in with over 300 million views is one of the first ever Brawl Stars ads where Shelly looks at Colt and says,
"No time to explain!"
Ever since day one, Nita has been saturated with two things: barrel, unhinged energy, and bear puns. Rawr. But of the two, the uncontrolled bear child is, with lack of a better word, very much untamed. Colt's title is so fitting we barely need an explanation. Look how pretty he is. He talks about it a lot, and since he's a gunslinger, I feel like there's loose connections between that stuff and a classic called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Bull's another one of those brawlers whose title is super easy to understand because his branding, bull ring, back bling, charging behavior is screaming bulldozer. Also, so is he. Bulldozer! Brock's boom title comes from two main things: his boom box and obsession with it, and the sound his rockets make when they hit someone. There's a whole lot of boom in his brawler build, and of course, he says it too.
The box goes boom!
El Luchador is Primo's title, which makes sense if you took one semester of Spanish in college, because Luchador comes from Lucha Libre, which is wrestling, and of course, El Luchador turns into the wrestler, which is exactly what Primo is. When I go to the bar, I get served water because I never drink. But what you may understand from this is that at Barley's Saloon, he offers his customers their drinks, and upon delivery, he confirms with them that you've been served. Been served, got served, same thing. It's what he does. This is mariachi music, a genre of Mexican music that in some cases makes people go crazy and leave. Does this sound like a brawler you know? Well, that's Poco's title for you. Did you ever want your deepest wish granted? Well, I got good news for you. I mean, I can't grant you that, but I can tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Cookie Run Oven Smash. Thanks, Dev Sisters, for sponsoring. Cookie Run Oven Smash is a new action PvP battle mobile game where you play as cookies who share the similar goal of winning the Oven Crown Cup, which grants their deepest wish. The cookie roster is pretty cool, and you can use this amazing summon feature to unlock more of them, and you can then use them in one of their many really fun game modes. The modes you play vary from solo to team, with examples including Wild Royale, where you fight to be the last one standing, as well as Castle Crasher, Jelly Race, and even more. If you're like me though, you'll probably be playing a lot of Wild Royale because I like to fight without making my teammates rely on my lack of skill. And if you like to look good while you battle the other cookies, you can even update your cookies' appearances with skins and other cosmetics unlockable within the game. There's no reason not to try this game. I think it's pretty fun, so please click my link in the pinned comment and description below to try Cookie Run Oven Smash. Again, massive thank you to Dev Sisters for sponsoring today's video. Rosa is a botanist. 3 of her abilities and many subtle characteristics are all grass and botany related, so it's just a fitting title. And also, if you're getting 1,000 trophies with this brawler, I think you should probably take the hint. Jessie is a prodigy child who finds scraps in the vast realm of her mom's yard of junk. You know what they say, one brawler's junk is another brawler's super. Okay, well, they don't actually say that, but it's still how she built that super. Dynamic is a miner. With an E, not an O, bro's still unk. But back in his day, miners used canary birds in coal mines because they detected threats long before humans, so his birdie was just what he used to, you know, evacuate. Here's his canary call. Tick's title is definitely something I've wanted to ask before, and that's because we all use it metaphorically when we're losing our minds, but for Tick's sake, he's asking, where's my head, literally, because he's lost his physical head and he doesn't know what to do next. Did your computer ever get so messy that you had to reset it? So you've either hit the Windows key or just pressed some button on top of your PC and hoped for the best. Well, back in 8-bits generation, systems like the Commodore 64 didn't have a reset button, so SYS 64738 was actually the command used to reset the computer. Beep boop that, would ya? This is so corny, man. Did you ever find yourself attracted to a vending machine? Or any robots out there, did you ever find yourself attracted to a baker who has a sniper rifle and grenades? If that doesn't apply to you, you're probably not in Brawl Stars. Regardless, Rico is canonically a former assassin who became a gumball machine and now he's in love with Piper. You know what makes me irate? The word pirate. Daryl's a pirate, and I guess that one day at Supercell, they just decided to use that word to make his mastery title. Kind of like titling 8-bit Arcade Machine or Globert, Jumbo IRL. But the multiple R's thing can't apply to others because pirates say R, and that's why Daryl's title has a bunch of them. Did you ever match up against a brawler like an Edgar or someone who killed you and then immediately started spinning and BMing despite you being extremely outmatched, or face someone who's obviously just being a sore loser? That player is salty. It applies to Penny though more because of a different different meaning of salty. As a pirate, she's nautically conditioned, and she is a tough, no-nonsense brawler who's spent plenty of time in the saltwater. Carl is a geology nerd. He knows the name of every rock in existence, and on top of that, he's part of the one gem grab map. That goober. I wonder what he does for a living. I guess we don't have to guess because his title kind of just tells us the answer. For Jackie's title, I don't want to do this part. I was gonna stub my toe for content, but that would require me setting up more cameras, so just pretend me swearing, even though I literally just naturally did. Yeah, that's her title. It's her saying bad words. Gus is like my channel audience with Brawl Stars. Lost. I mean, when's the last time anyone saw Gus? He's a lost child who went missing under mysterious circumstances, so yeah, the lost. Bo looks like he's lived in the jungle all his life, right? Well, he didn't. He just lasted for a bit at Star Park's Rumble Jungle, the safest pretend jungle you've ever seen, which gets even better because he's just playing with a bunch of overpriced gift shop toys. It's all about the image you want to make, right? I hate M's. Her Buffy was way too powerful, and even with a nerf, I still think under no circumstance should an M super ever grant her immunity. And that gadget's Gale's star power, and I could go on and on about that. I'm what you call a modern M's hater. And as she would say,
#haters.
Stu spends his free time banging on the drums. By that, I mean he's part of the bad randoms. His name within that elite group is Wicked Stu. Now, does this all make sense? His title is Wicked. If you look very closely at Piper's sniper rifle, it's actually an umbrella. Or should I put it the other way around? She's an innocent damsel with an umbrella who in-game benefits greatly from shooting from afar. Hence, she's the sniper. Your mom, she look like this? If you said yes, your name's probably Ike Broflovski. But let's not talk about that and instead look at all the maternal references in her build and just accept the fact that she's Jesse's mom, cause she is. Frankie is tanky. There's even another tank whose name is Hank, but Frank still tanks more than the tank whose name is Hank, so he definitely deserves this status. Good job, Frank. BB is a batter beater upper from the Retropolis, which is an 80s or 90s themed metro, and calling oneself a cool cat is extremely 80s core. Like, I'm almost certain it's something you'd catch David Hasselhoff saying. No matter how slay queen the B-mains are, their elite slayingness is sadly not the namesake of B's title. This goes back to grade school biology, where you once had to master B with 300 wins. That's not a thing anymore, but that's when you put yourself at the top of the hierarchy, get it? Only there do B's become the queen. Nanny is Pam's mechanical babysitter thing for Jessie, and her name kind of sounds like Nanny, which she is. Nani, Nanny, whatever you say her name is, her title still defines her as a nanny. First wall, second wall, third wall, and here. Edgar just broke the fourth wall. Good job, Edgar. CEO of Brawl Stars, and he just mentioned the game he's in. I don't even know what to call that conjuncture. Did you ever have a super selfish boss who's colorblind to the point where he only sees green? You did? Do you also live in a pineapple under the sea? If you don't, then you probably work at Griff's gift shop, where your employer can merely be described as the greedy. Grom says with one left hand, which is actually pretty unique. Despite being right-handed, he's saying this out of overconfidence. When he says that, he means that the task, like eliminating a Kit or an Edgar, is so easy that he could literally do it with one left hand. It was so cool it became his title. Did you ever get pulled over for reckless driving? Me neither, but it's pretty self-explanatory, right? Bringing chaos on the road and having a potentially destructive nature will bring that title to you, similar to how self-propelling yourself from a cannon and throwing grenades might also do that. Everything needs cleaned by someone, whether it's the school bathroom, train car with Lepraski's lost bag, or just the snowy parking lot of a hotel. Well, no matter where you're cleaning, your title is very likely to be the janitor, which is exactly what happened to sweet old Gale. We're far enough into this video that I don't think the IRS is listening, so it's time for me to say it. I hate them. They're coming to collect, and they're coming soon. Oh, but this is Brawl Stars relevant because Colette's attacks take more health from the brawlers who have more, kind of similar to taxes in real life. The one time not being rich comes in clutch. She's the tax man, or woman, she's the collector. Are you ready for this one? It's gonna blow your mind. So, for the sake of keeping this video as long as it should be, I added a few extra words in this sentence that you hopefully didn't skip. Anyways, her last name is Star. Trash tier is a great way of saying someone or something is bad in a game. Does that look like it's the case for Ash here? Well, that's because it isn't. This title belongs to a walking garbage can. That's right, he's the true trash tier. Lola is an expert at causing a scene and making things go her way. She's famous, egotistical, and she just has that attitude. You know anyone like that? Well, yeah, that makes sense that they're a drama queen. Sam's a D1 face puncher. It's all over and around him. When he launches his knuckle busters, he pulls you in and beats you up. He even goes and says, "In your face!" Mandy is a pretty tough and resilient character, and once again returning to the rather old English slang, she's a tough cookie. She even calls herself one.
I'm one tough cookie.
Maisie works valiantly as the safety coordinator at the Star Park Cinema. That doesn't sound like much until you realize that she's keeping everyone safer from Buster and Fang, a disastrous duo. As she goes and saves the population from them, they see her as a master of disaster. Last time I did this, Hank's title title was Lil Tennant. Now, there's a great and strong Hank culture ran by so many creators and community members, all going nuts and saying, "I was prawn ready," to honor their leader Hank. Supercell liked this and they changed his title to Prawn Ready. Ironically, the next brawler also had a changed title. Pearl came out on September 11th, 2023, which was a very unique time because it was around the start of the Who Let Bro Cook culture for those who are chronically online. It really took off after that, and after a lot of community feedback, it actually became Pearl's title. As for our good cop bad cop duo, Larry and Lori enforce the law across Star Park, and you know what's one really badass way to get your point across? Look at the suspect and say, "I am the law." When Angela says he's thirsty, the last thing I'd expect him to want in his mouth is blood, but then I remember that he's a blood-sucking mosquito. Bonus points for having the Dionysus skin, the god of wine, and possibly drinking blood red wine. For Barry, get ready for this one, I won't keep you for long. When in uniform and working tirelessly at Mandy's Candy Incorporated, I think, your boy is a unicorn. When I get ghosted, that just means she stopped talking to me, which is kind of how it usually ends. As for Shade, that just means he activates ghost mode because, you know, he's a ghost. When I call Moyo a cheater, that just means that he's out with another brawler. When they call Meeple it's because he's a board game thingy who cheats to win because that's just how it's done, I guess. Get ready for this one, it's a mouthful. In Trunks' animation of any sort, you notice that he's like a log from Clash Royale except a bunch of ants climbed inside and took control, right? Because of that, he's controlled by ants. Mortis is a vampire who can now turn back into a vampire bat, and this thing is called Creature of the Night, and so is Mortis, so he just always reassures you with this voice line.
I am a creature of the night.
Tara's attack lets her throw tarot cards. Those are basically Psychic's tools to read the future, and if she's doing some Tara-y thing to you, it's bound to leave you wondering what's in the cards. Now, while it still exists, Jean's mythic gear says talk to the hand. What we don't know yet though is Jean's massive scary hand that does the talking for him. You don't need to be naturally intimidating when you have a big hand like that doing the talking for you, which prompts us to read his title. Once I saw this movie about a red and yellow main character who was a famous racer, but I'm not gonna share what it was. In this movie, however, this lightning fast being had a catchphrase. He would say, "I am speed." The Snowtail Hotel has a pretty elite staff. He has an army of porters, one janitor, and one snowco machine. That makes it pretty hard to be at the top of the operation, but since Mr. P runs it all, he's the boss. Once when I was in 7th grade, I had a teacher who told the class that he and some others used to go build Ewok village looking structures in the trees, targeting areas heavy with deforestation. Well, informally and in a teasing manner, people who care about the environment, namely trees, they're called tree huggers. Sprout's a gardening robot, so it all makes sense as to why he's called one. Byron is so snake-like that his tie looks like a parcel tongue if that was a noun, and he's covered with snake references everywhere else. Why is that relevant, you ask? Because he says, sensational, which makes sense a lot more. Squeak was born out of Happy Slobber from Ruffs, and look at that smile. Imagine how quickly it would fade if someone told him that he shared a trait with your average kitmate. That, of course, is that he is an accident. Uncle Lou's title is as simple as it gets, kind of just stripped from a voice line, as he says, "Uncle Lou is here for you." Brawl Stars made a lovely move on February 1st, 2021, as that was when they added Colonel Ruffs to the game. Then on August 31st of the following year, they made the dastardly decision to change his name to Ruffs because I guess the former name was just too long. But then it was undone as titles came out and Ruffs was finally called Colonel again, all while they snuck out a brawler named Larry and Lori, who ironically didn't have a name that was too long. Buzz has a title similar to Stu. He isn't just born bad because he's Mr. Tough Stuff, it's actually because he named himself that in the Bad Randoms band as Born Bad Buzz. Did you ever have that one kid in elementary school kickball whose shoe would fly off when he made contact? That's basically like our sneaker splatter painter. Well, if you master the ability to launch shoes at someone, then and only then do you become better labeled now as a sneaker artist. Eve, and get it, though she's a glorified single mother, Eve is still a mother. She parasites into brawlers like Ruffs like any flea would, and she reproduces and spawns a litter of babies, like a good mother. Janet has a jetpack. With her super, she blasts off faster than a GB missile, so without really putting too much brain power into this, one can understand why she also goes by the Rocket. In the sea, ink is usually always black and not used for artistic purposes. In the deep sea, that changes. Otis covers the streets of Brawlkini Bottom with his lovely art, which of course gives us his title, The Artist. Buster is one of Maisie's destructive colleagues who stole a projector and hopes to one day steal the show, which in other words means that he wants to be the hero of a blockbuster film. Gray is silent, played a shady role back during Mystery at the Hub. Not only is he a quiet old school film character, but also one heck of a shady one. But not everything Gray does goes unnoticed. His shady behavior was under the most supreme surveillance by the all-knowing eye in the sky. That of course would be RT, who's best described as the Watcher. Don't you hate when you're losing and the other team gets in your head? Yeah, well, don't you hate it more when the other team throws a cursed tadpole at your head and physically enters your mind and controls you? Same! It's Willow. Now finally, she is in your head. One thing everyone excels at when considering Doug is the wiener puns. I've made them, Supercell's made them, your mom's probably made them, but today we take a break. As the hot dog man, his wiener title is ever so fitting. Chuck is a conductor, but due to the obvious traits of his build, he's only seen now as a conductor. To further establish his conductor characteristics, he's been given the maestro as his title. That of course is often used to describe a master conductor of something like an orchestra. As for Charlie, not only is she an arachnid loving circus talent, but she's also, I guess, nothing else. Regardless, it's very common for circus acts to be associated with the amazing. Same with Spider-Man and women. Miko is a hot-tempered fake celeb who can't take a joke. He probably makes a bit more than Brawlywood's minimum wage, but he pretends like he's richer than OJ. If you call him out on it, he'd probably say something like, "Look, come on, am I a joke to you?" I love Melody. Why? Because of K-pop, of course. It's an incredible music genre, but Fearless being her title is a reference to a real-life song and album that served as the debut to a now famous K-pop group. In Tribe gaming videos, Wasim likes to be a backstabber where he betrays those who trust him for his own personal gain. In Brawl Stars itself, Lily's super gets her behind the enemy so she can physically stab them in the back. Different meanings, same expression, Lily's title. Shellshock can be described as a psychological and physical result of warfare, even being Shelly's star power name. For Clancy's case, he's a crustacean character buried in a shell-covered costume, so he's already fighting his own war to convince everyone that he's not a human. Ever since you were like 3, what did you associate cats with? Good, fish. And for mice, cheese. Thanks, Tom and Jerry. As for Juju, I'm unsure if there's any deeper lore to it, but hexes are quite frankly curses that negatively affect someone, which is very understandably classic voodoo language. Ollie, though, he's a skater. He stands on business and he'll say and do things even if he knows not everyone will approve. But also his hoverboard doubles as a really loud speaker, one with really good bass. So basically, he's based. Lumi is a metalhead and a hardcore musician, and quite simply, that and her spinning morning stars while jamming all leads to one simple conclusion on how to describe her: a headbanger. I was once called this by another content creator, except I wasn't even using Finks. Lore drop: Finks runs an escape room, but he uses his time warping abilities to cause trouble and make it harder for them. So after their hours up and they didn't succeed, it's safe to say that he spent his day acting like I would to OJ. Amor fati is a Latin phrase that translates to love of fate. It's a philosophical concept that dates back to the 19th century, but in an effort to avoid a history lesson, it applies to Jaeyoung because he accepts everything that life gave him. He doesn't resist or hide his day job, he just mixes it with his partying persona, and instead of wishing for more than he already has, he just loves everything about himself. That's power. Allie's mastery title is a pun that's older than Pam's player title, aka your mom. A wise man once said, after a while, crocodile, and then he looked at Allie and said, see you later, alligator. Mina's kit is built with fighting and hurricanes. It's in her super, her gadget, her star power, her hypercharge, and her third attack. That is her story of the hurricane, which of course is her title. Ziggy is a slightly successful magician whose main act is zapping his enemies. Fantastic, right? Since he's a magician though, he's proudly adopted the quite generic title that says, The Great. Being strung up can be used in an idiomatic sense when you're talking about someone who's nervous or stressed out, or in a literal sense if you're a puppet controlled by a giant hand with strings. Globert's title says sleeps with the fishes, and for his sake, it's probably because he actually slept with the fishes before because he loves his sea life. In a real sense though, the saying would be used by mafia people like Crow, and it actually means that someone was killed and thrown in the water. Lore drop: in the early days, Spike was mentioned to be the last of his species. He's also the only living cactus that we've probably ever seen, and of course, he's the #1 most appearing brawler in any of the official Brawl Stars artworks. That's pretty one of a kind. This one's gonna be a big surprise. Volume up, training cave, use the super. Of the 10 brawlers who can go invisible or do something similar, Leon's the very first. Back in his day, being invisible was quite unique because he was the only brawler capable of distracting and sneaking up to you. Boy, have the times changed. It's still his title though, he's the sneaky. Sandy the Sandman is in charge of sleep and dreams in Brawl Stars, but like the modern college student, he uses it all on himself. This bro is never awake, and no amount of sleep can fix him. The sleepy. Amber is actually kind of hot because of very obvious reasons. Most brawlers require a hypercharge to ignite a flame, but she just has to exist to do so. If you need an insurance claim on a burnt down business, I got someone for you. Meg's is straightforward and kinda lame, and I honestly never see it. But my best explanation? She's a mech engineer and literally says Tech Support 2.0. Surge's bro title is actually one of the Brawler's core values. Back in the original Lex interview with the voice actor, Stephen Kelly revealed that the brief he got for Surge's voice was literally
frat boy robot action hero.
And quite frankly, that's got frat bro written all over it. Chester is a jack of all trades, but he has no specific skill mastered in life unless it's taking credit for a crime you didn't commit. He was so indecisive that he ended up with 5 different supers. Mastering him is mastering what exactly? I think this title could be fitting for a lot of brawlers, but for an assassin that can force you into a 1v1 and in Brawl Ball, banish you from your team and spin while the others score, it can arguably go towards him. Also, mushrooms are toxic sometimes. It says meow and that's the title they gave him? There's so many other options they could have given him. The end title, lands on the feet, perfect, even era tier. Draco's title is Dungeon Master because that title is appointed to the person in D&D or something that's like the tabletop manager, and Draco definitely loves those games, probably more than he loves Lumi. Just saying, they ended up picking him for a Stranger Things skin. Kenji's a sushi samurai. Because of that, his title is Samurai. Pierce peed in the pool. Because of that, his title is peed in the pool. On one side, Kaze's a humble geisha, and when no one's looking, she waves a fan over her face and suddenly transforms into a scary-eyed ninja. She's the perfect pretender of innocence, and that's a good trait for a ninja to have. The Grand Lore Master Sirius is up next, with a big story explaining his background. Mysteriously gone after the Great Fire of Star Circus, the search for Sirius was discontinued and his memory merely faded away. He was metaphorically exiled, becoming the Banished. And then Nausea, Snake Lady, she reminds me of this.
Hi! Oh, you're a big boy! Hi, you're so cute. What's your name? What's your name?
Right there.
Oh, hi. Vino Moose. Oh, hi, Vino Moose.
There's all the original titles, and before we go on to the neon ones, I'm gonna speedrun every non-brawler title. RIP is the only golden non-brawler title that was dropped when Supercell got rid of both Mastery and half of its player base. Trophy Titan's the other special title, acquired by having 10 rank 35 brawlers before the October 2024 update. The StarToon Studios season was the first season. The Year of the Dragons title was the Golden Dragon because that's just pure power and respect in Chinese mythology. Sands of Time was timeless. Ragnarok means end of the world in Norse mythology, so if you're taking that on, you're godlike, man. Gojira is Godzilla's original Japanese name. Cyber Brawl's Cyber Season was the perfect place for Supercell to let your bad randoms admit it. The Gods vs. Monsters season was Beyond Humans, featuring the Immortal. Paint Brawl was like street artwork. Vandalism. SpongeBob SquarePants. Scary Tales on Halloween month had the personification of death as its title. Angels vs. Demons chose Supernatural because they were really running out of godlike words to use after repeating concepts so much. StarToon Studios 2 was about a famous animated character. The crazy leader of Star Force was an evil Star Lord. Good Random Season was Good Random like me. Dark Sands chose Mummified because it's fitting when the season's all about pharaohs and other ancient Egyptian stuff. Super Brawl season was filled with superheroes. Battle for Katana Kingdom had the Wasabi collab, and Kenji's favorite season, so we can just call this Wasabi Warrior. Crush the Kaiju was when they referred to a giant unstoppable kaiju. Legends of the Underworld Legend. Knights of Star Table Night. Subway Surfers collided Star with rail surfing. What would you say on Brawloween? Mind Flayer is merely just a Stranger Things antagonist, if you will. Mechs are hardwired. Steampunk is like the good old-fashioned world of crime lords, and Moyo, guess what? I'm your Brawlin' Tide. Sands of Time, oh my gosh, like Sandy's Super Sandstorm, and oh wow, mythical, yeah. But anyways, Shelly's Fantastico super title is quite simply her most popular character voice line. It's even part of 2 of her pins. Nita's is wild. That comes from the fact that untamed, non-domesticated animals similar to Nita and Bruce are in fact wild animals. Colt's Pew 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 came from his iconic voice line, and it was actually heavily requested to be his Gold Master title back 3 years ago, but obviously that wasn't the case. Bull's Don't Mess With Me shows how great and tough Bull is, but it's also something he literally says.
Don't mess with the bull!
Brox says take the L, and now I'm kind of concerned because all rares seem to just have a voice line.
Take the L!
El Primo's a rare. You know what that means?
Sin dolor, no hay gloria!
Barley, though, finally doesn't say his super title. Instead, his last call is not only the name of his super, but also the name of a classic Brawl Stars commercial that introduced us to both Barley and Brawl Stars in 2018. Poco's goes loco because Poco goes loco and says Poco goes loco if he's truly going loco. No joke though with Brocode playing Moko. Blooming is like when a plant has its beautiful unfolding moment, but what's more beautiful than that is the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition that came in clutch, which talks about how it's just thriving and essentially existing in a perfectly fresh state. What does this Because like, Jessie the Builder, can she fix it? Jessie the Builder, yes she can? That's like millennial ball knowledge, by the way. That's a bit older than Ankbo's age, but I guess she's a fixer-upper too. Bombastic is a word that's like overly dramatic and using big and fancy words to try and sound important. It's kind of like when you get caught stealing free meals and shout, "This is democracy manifest." But oh, Boombastic is just a pun because it's Dynamite, and even though he doesn't say bombastic stuff, his super is just big and boomy. Tix finally graduated from asking where the head is once you get a super title to now kind of reenacting his losing animation, where he seems to be losing his temper so badly that he almost explodes. This is the visualization of hot-headed. Okay, it makes no sense. Well, it does, but it doesn't. Once you do the best possible thing for him, beating his prestige, you unlock the words that say game over. What's more to suck at in Brawl Ball? Trick shots! But what's Rico's entire kit based around? Bouncy ball trick shots. Isn't that great? Once you get him up to prestigious, you truly are a trick shot pro. Okay, Daryl's pirate title was lame, but he's always been called a fake pirate or whatever. But once you complete his road to fame, you finally earn the greatest title a nautical rum belly can obtain, and that's the captain. As for Penny, she's a bit more of a reckless pirate. She's an anarchist and doesn't follow any of the rules, not even the ones that pirates are supposed to follow. She is rightfully known as the rebel. Carl's IQ too high is pretty basic. Have you ever heard him talk? He's a nerd, man. But on top of that, he expresses it insultingly so because he assumes intellectual superiority over everyone. Evolution, it must have passed you by. Jackie's Don't Mess With Me title is super similar to Bull's, except it's New Yorkified. Jackie does not rest at simple words like mess with her blue-collar job and instead is more vulgar than a COD mobile streamer. Maybe not. Gus is a boy. Not only is he lost, but his attacks, his super, everything about him is ballooned. Do you see where this is going? The ghost child is now known as the Balloon Boy. Did you ever pick Bow in Showdown and feel like this while you wait in a nearby bush for a brawler to trigger your minds? Well, this is one of the countless examples of how he requires patience. Regardless, as a hopeful nature boy, patience is part of his kit. Ems is a social media addict who even goes far enough to say hashtag in a few of her voice lines. Well, I think we finally found one of her favorite socials, as Ratio is best known as the thing you do on Twitter where someone comments on your post and they get more likes than the post itself. This is kind of sad, but Stu might not be the stuntman we know and love. He's all broken with his voice lines and his personality and mechanics just don't function properly, and the new title suggests that he's just a crash test dummy who behaves like he's a stuntmaster. Such a heartbreaking discovery. Piper is a passionate baker who just loves making yummy pastries and sweet treats. But like that old woman from Ratatouille, she also has a gun. And in Brawl Stars, she's one of the best snipers in Star Park. So once you get her super title, you can assume that she's earned it by firing headshots only. Pam brings us back to the dark ages with her You Got Scrapped title. But that's just because it's a voice line of hers. Regardless, she's part of a giant scrapyard, so it's still part of her brand, I guess. Frank's is certified lobotomy. For those of you who don't know, a lobotomy is a discontinued medical procedure where you literally severed connections within the frontal lobe, but it had numerous side effects that made patients dumb like my randoms, and probably with the speech depth of Frank himself. If you have the Grand Slam title already, you probably did it while her gadget was a teeny tiny bit too strong. But its meaning? Quite simple. A Grand Slam is arguably the best play an individual can make within one baseball game, consisting of a home run when the bases are already loaded for 4 points. It's a rare occurrence for most players even within their careers, especially if they're on the Pittsburgh Pirates. And all in all, it's for the best of all batters. Be Kind is actually not a Bee voice line as much as you would have expected it to be, but instead it's just a demonstration of both Bee's entire personality and mindset towards others. She's a very peaceful character who doesn't really have a mean bone in her body, but she also has a plethora of Bee puns, so the second E in the word is most certainly needed. Nanny's You Okay? title depicts her absolute kindness and gentle nature, as she was a nanny back for when Jessie was probably a baby. Edgar's EZ title comes from Edgar's niece generation where they just have that mindset. I'm no longer a Delulu teen like Edgar going through a phase, but like EZ is just spelled with 2 letters. Griff's Money title comes from his Mr. Krabs-like personality, where he truly is just in it for the money. It gets so bad that not only does he do devious things to earn money, but he also falsifies his income to make him look more successful. Misleading the shareholders or something? Probably. Grom's Red Hood title comes from, you ready for this? His Red Hood. This one's weird, and I'm not too much a fan, but I'm pretty sure it's fulfilling the creation of a vigilante out of Grom because we aren't really supposed to see his face. As for Bonnie, I kinda get confused once again because she's just a little girl who's at an age where she's losing her teeth. I'm talking Tooth Fairy age. Regardless, it's a girl in a cannon with grenades and stuff. It's capable of knocking other people's teeth out as well, so she kind of is a pretty scary every toothbreaker. When it comes to Gale, he works restlessly at Mr. P's hotel as we discussed before, but after the longest and hardest grind of his life, once you finally get to the grand prestige, he puts away the snowblower forever and enjoys the rest of his senile life. Like a washed pro, he's finally retired. Colette is the biggest fan of Brawl Stars we've ever seen. She collects more gadgets and gears than Pan, and this time without thinking of the IRS, we can find one full circle moment where she joins a brawler in her trio with the rare phenomenon of having Brawl Stars in both one for voice lines and now a player title. Brawl Stars forever is her mindset. Belle's most wanted title is not only aura, but it also reflects her identity of being a notorious gang leader and outlaw, and she wants to uncover the truth about Star Park, which, as you can imagine, is such a bad idea, and when they say she's wanted, it's probably not by law enforcement alone, but by some of the most dangerous beings Star Park has to offer. Ash is trashy. As the garbage can man who just cleans the park for a living, the grind and prestige is surely a dirty one, and once he's at the top, he's not just trashed here, but he's covered in trash. Super trashy. Lola is a lot of things, but most revolve around her ego, her entitlement, and the drama. If we focus on the first two, we can understand that the Brawlywood success has inflated her ego and made her feel like she deserves everything, and quite frankly, this just means that no one can outshine her. She said it herself, no one outshines the diva. Sam, our favorite former blue-collar worker who's now a gang member, is all rusty and worn down from years at the factory. That and his old age, man, he's done and dusted. Mandy is just one of those brawlers whose title isn't really that good. It's called Free Candy, but she has an iron fist and she is way too tough and low-Kirkuinly not about free candy, even though it's like her first voice line. Maisie's pop and lock title comes from the fact that when she gets ready to brawl, she pops and locks her prosthetic arm into place, and it also doubles up as a pun towards a dance genre. Hank's lieutenant title is a few things. He's a military prawn, so it sounds like the lieutenant title, but it's also a pun how he's a little tenant within the tank, and finally it's the classic gold Hank title many years ago before it was changed. Pearl though, she's a labeled cookie lover. Unlike Hank, she didn't restore her previous title, but instead furthers into her cookie lore because she's a cookie oven, so I guess she was just bound to love her #1 product. As for the twins, it shows their good cop bad cop nature, where Larry's personality is reflected in obey, which is a simple command, followed by pay, which is the aggressive response Lori would take out on the victims. The duality of our favorite duo. Angela likes the gossip. There's a difference between a D1 yapper and a gossip artist, and it's that the gossipist shares everyone's lore even if it isn't true. Just look what Angela did with Sirius.
Okay. But the real tea, I heard he's dating Melody.
He loves spilling the tea. Barry dreams of making it to 5 o'clock. Well, that's if the Mandy Candy Shop has the 9 to 5 business hours. And on top of that, I guess every other detail about him has to do with the sweets and ice cream and stuff, so it's only a fitting compound word. If only it wasn't so much like Sandy's personality. Shade went from the one that got ghosted to the one that did the ghosting. After long enough, it's a moment in someone's life where they get sick of being treated poorly and decide to ghost the rest of the world. For some of us, that means to vanish online, but for Shade, that just means to pop a super and go right inside your walls. Meeple's My Game, My Rules title is perfectly displayed in his introductory video. In Brawl Stars, when you prestige him and become the true Meeple Master, you earn the right to hold this title. Trunky gets funky. Crap, that's not his title. Instead, we get We Are Trunk, to show that those who achieve his super title are the truest members of Trunk Nation and only the bravest members to brawl from inside a log. Mortis is up next, and his super title is Bringer of Doom. This comes from a few things, namely that he identifies himself as Mortis, the Bringer of Doom, but it's also because he's a mortician, aka Undertaker, which is his file name, and an assassin, so he basically gets to choose his own customers, if that's what they're called. Tara's title says Future Demise, which quite frankly means that she's the reason you will soon meet your doom. Doombringer. But since she's psychic, it's Laura's way of saying she's aware of who she will soon bring down in the next showdown match. Jeans. The voice line guy must have just picked his title. That's actually Jean's language for saying that the most attractive brawler in Brawl Stars is... Oh, sorry, I can't translate the last part. I don't know what it says. Max's title is too fast. She's very fast indeed. Mr. P's title is the biggest bird for a multitude of reasons. First off, out of the many birds that are in Brawl Stars, Mr. P is the biggest one. And also, some years back, a SoundCloud rapper made I'm the biggest bird, and it blew up like a meme, so Supercell just had some ball knowledge. Sprout's With Love title is because as a chunk of lab equipment on wheels, he was created by Rosa with love since she had good intentions on how to use him. Byron's title is Will End You. This is the case because he's a snake oil salesman who's very threatening towards those who wrong him, and is capable of a lot of harm. If you prestige him, your aim is probably very much on point, which supports this voice line.
I will end you.
Squeak's title is squishy. Not gonna lie, a blob of drool isn't really a squishy, so I don't really know where they got this from, because he's more so in a fluid state than anything. But maybe this has to do with the squishy squeaker toys that are in the center of each attack. Lou is the only brawler who has ever been able to freeze everyone, and that's kind of sweet if you ask me. But for some reason, his super title is a voice line that he shouts when he's getting defeated. Ruffs. Not to flex, but like 2 years ago, I said in a video that he should be top dog instead of colonel, and look at that. Anyways, wait, that's literally my main, and I did that. Are you kidding me? This is my profile picture of Brawler. Supercell, if you listen to me, thank you so much. Anyways, you got the dog to the top of the leaderboard, so at this point, you are a top dog. Buzz has very little authority, but he uses it to the fullest extent. Even when he's defeated by other brawlers, he's still barking out reminders such as, and remember to stay hydrated! One Punch Man is a popular anime where the main hero can beat anyone with one punch. Well, instead of beating everyone with one punch, Bang does it with one kick, and it's even better when you think of his one star power. Eve's title is Mommy. Even though she's the mother of all those little hatchling things, and they probably call her Mommy, I'm just gonna use that word to address a different mythic instead, if you're okay with that. Janet's big sis title comes from her greatest bit of lore, and it's that she's literally the big sis of Bonnie. She's the hero big sis who assists Bonnie when in need, and because of that, she gets those two words as her neon title. Otis's super mutes people. That's literally the name of the effect. Why does it get applied to those who master him? I don't know. Maybe Otis takes a dark turn onto you, the player, once you prestige him. Buster's is absolute cinema. This came from a more recent, very popular meme that was used to positively comment on dramatic occurrences online with this original image. Gray's is, shh, look at his portrait. Read his description. He doesn't talk and he doesn't want you to either. RT's title goes from the Watcher to watching you. It's kind of scary because as the Watcher, he's surveilling the area, and watching you means he's onto you and now you're in some real trouble. Also, he says it. Willow's a control freak. Seriously, when she dislikes the doings of other brawlers, she throws a tadpole at them and literally controls them, and it's really unsettling, but like that in a relationship, that would be toxic AF. Doug graduated from wiener to chill bro. He's such a chill guy with some positive glizzy energy, and when something interferes with that, his immediate response is to holler, chill bruh. Chuck's title is Can't Stop, Won't Stop, because that's what would happen if you pushed him down the stairs. Oh, wait, this is not a Moyo video. I cannot say that. Chuck's title is Can't Stop, Won't Stop because he's a conductor, and at the peak of his career, he would have either discovered the greatest secret in music and capitalized, or he's just flying around his train tracks with no desire to slow down. Charlie's title is Main Attraction. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that this is because she secretly silenced the search for Sirius so she could rule the Bizarre Circus and reclaim her role at the top, but in reality, that's just where you place yourself when you are a talented circus performer. And Sirius her dad. Miko's is going bananas. This can mean a few things, one being that he's losing his mind since you probably made fun of him for being fake, or he's popping off in Showdown, or is simply just celebrating and using that one voice line.
I'm going bananas!
Melodies is Melodian. If you grind Melody to the higher prestiges, you're not doing it because you're skilled, you're doing it because you're just a Melodian at heart. What? Don't look at me, I don't even have her at 1,000. Lily's is right behind you. This is because she's the backstabbing assassin, and when she hits the brawler, she appears behind them to do some damage, and it's like that creepy moment when she appears right at your blind spot. Clancy's No Mercy title comes from the fact that he's one of Hank's comrades, a fierce military crustacean who has all offense in lieu of his inadequate defense. Well, when he maxes out, he's scary aggressive, and the Clancy claws are the least likely to show mercy ever. Mo just jumps from one cheese pond to another. No, he doesn't have a camera anywhere ever, nor could he see a camera if it was right in front of his face, but as a mouse or a rat, he loves his cheese, so say cheese. Juju's the owner of the oddity shop, but she's also secretly super evil. Instead of like having a pet frog or something, she has a pet voodoo doll, and she controls the elements, and she's doing some pretty devilish stuff while putting on the facade that she's just a toy maker. Ollie's a skater. If you prestige him a few times, you're pro at Ollie. If you put those two words together, then you get pro skater. Lumi's is hot and cold. As much as you may forget, she controls the elements of ice and fire, and it's best revealed within her two gadgets, including the one that she never uses, and it's just reinforced when you get her prestige title. Sphinx is Egyptian, and his name established him to be like Sphinx, which looks like this. On top of that, he kind of looks like a cat, he probably adores kids, and it even says down here that he loves cats. Need any more feline info? Jae Young is like the yin-yang of the everyday man. He does accounting by day and Jae Young it by night. He also has a great outlook on all aspects of life, and in the end, when he succeeds at prestige, his silly little office job recognizes him as employee of the month. I hope none of you are dying to have the stalker title, or I might have a few questions for you, but basically as a predator in the food chain, her instincts kick in and she goes stealthy and stalks her prey. It's quite a challenging task, but by completing it, you do earn that title. Mina's upside down in her portrait, and she's a capoeira breakdancer double talent. So with that, being the best at her means you're probably the best at breakdancing. Ziggy is an illusionist, but it's not an illusion since he actually summons lightning and zaps his foes. At gold, he's the great, and once he's the greatest, he's also a master of thunder. Gigi, the cursed puppet, is part of the whole Juju thing, but the giant hand above her has one goal, to make her a ballerina. So once it becomes the master hand, I think that fate is achieved. Globy Globert Glorbus holds the title Needs a Friend, which is actually kind of sad, because it reminds me of that one commercial where he made Melody puke for being chopped, and later he found Mo as a friend. What happened after that? Did they lose each other? Nausea is the snake lady, and as scared as Indiana Jones would be of her, she does control snakes pretty dang well. So as you can imagine, she's just a snake charmer. Spikes, since the dawn of Brawl Stars, been known as the brawler with the best voice lines. Not Lily, not Gray, not anyone else. He's eerily silent, eerily speechless. Pro's title 100% came from this Carnage game video, so good job, Carnage! You forever changed Lex's main brawler and the future of the assassin that wins all of my challenges and damage contests with his hypercharge. Leon's title was so close to being, you can't see me, but instead he just took a bit here from Ziggy and a bit there from Sirius, and now it says, now you see me, and the suffix is just him using a super because now you don't. Sandy's is so much full of info, it's a bunch of Z's. He's a brawler built around sleep. His origin is not that deep. Amber, though, is on fire. This goes two ways. When she's performing so good, she's on fire metaphorically. When she's still performing insanely well, she's on fire not metaphorically. Meg's title is almost like what you would expect from Lumi. It's heavy metal. Basically, she's a hero in a giant block of metal that she calls Rob, and well, the metal is probably pretty heavy. Surge is a cool looking soda fountain, so he's full of juice. Juicy here, juicy there, so he's juicy. Chester the Jester trolls everyone. From his voice lines to the things he says to Meeple, he's here for his own entertainment at anyone's expense. What a joker. Cordelius is a fiercely territorial caretaker of the Enchanted Forest. Warden is essentially guardian and protector, so maxing him out means the brawler is officially the most elite protector of the mushrooms in the forest. Kits is similar to the one thing I did a few brawlers back. I called it, and I'm not going to go on saying I'm the reason his title's perfect, but I did put it online a few years ago. It's not that impressive though. Kit literally says it himself.
Perfect.
Draco's is Master of Metal. I mean, he's an aspiring rock star with some heavy metal music and stuff. He truly is the Master of Metal. Kenji, my guy, I'm sorry. Yes, he scored Kaze, but I have a feeling that his title being chopped doesn't apply to what he's doing to the sushi. I don't see a problem with it though. I'm sure he's a great guy, just chopped. Pierce being called a bad cop makes me think that it's not the stereotype of good cop, bad cop. Instead, I think it means he literally sucks at being a cop. I mean, he literally got fired by Buzz, but again, the warnings were there. Buzz is power hungry. Kaze's title is like the wind. She's sneaky, two-faced, and highly dangerous. If she's coming to assassinate you, you might not know until she's gone like the wind. And finally, Sirius. After the Great Fire, he vanished. He hid. He was among the shadows. Maybe even the very shadows he created of the other brawlers. Regardless, he's in the shadows. And one more. You thought I'd forget about this guy? Here's Buzz. He says to infinity and beyond. Anyways, that's all 233 current player titles, but here's one more special one that's yet to be released. Go make it real.